recent amendments that were done to Protection of Human Rights Act 2019. Last year in 2019, amendments were done to Protection of Human Rights Act. So under this act only, we have the NHRC and the SHRC bodies, National Human Rights Commission and State Human Rights Commission. These two bodies are under this Protection of Human Rights Act 2019, right? So some important changes were made to this act and also to NHRC also, National Human Rights Commission. So this is important for us because it's a part of the syllabus, constitutional bodies and statutory bodies. So first of all, this NHRC is a statutory body, right? Under the Act, Protection of Human Rights Act. Just now I have told it. So this act was brought to increase compliance of India with Paris principles, right? So this act was brought as a part of Paris principles. Usually we have international conventions. So India adopts these international conventions, and to give effect to these international conventions, domestic laws are also made by countries. So in the same way, Paris principles are for promotion and protection of human rights, right? All the United Nations General Assembly countries, they have come together and adopted these Paris principles. So these Paris principles are international principles about promotion and protection of human rights. So this was adopted in 1991. After that, this Protection of Human Rights Act 2009, Protection of Human Rights Act was enacted in 1993. So this is something about Paris principles, right? If there is any question saying Paris principles is related to, then at least we have to know Paris principles is related to human rights. Similarly, we have Beijing Declaration. That is about women empowerment. Just find out what is it, because last year Beijing Plus 25 initiative took place. It has been 25 years for this Beijing Declaration. Just find out what is this Beijing Declaration, right? So now we'll get back to our topic. So let's discuss some of the important amendments that were brought, right? So firstly, about National Human Rights Commission, NHRC. We frequently see this NHRC in the news, right? Any custodial death happened or any extrajudicial killings have been happened, NHRC will be the first to take note of it. So some important changes that were made are, firstly, about the chairperson of NHRC, right? Previously, only retired Chief Justice of India can be the chairperson of NHRC. But now, after the amendment, not only Chief Justice of India, but also any other judge of the Supreme Court can also be the chairperson. So this is the first change that was brought regarding NHRC. Not only Chief Justice of India, but also any judge of the Supreme Court can also become the chairperson of this National Human Rights Commission. This is the first amendment. Second amendment is one extra member is being added to this NHRC. That is a woman member, right? So the recent amendments say must and should a woman member has to be appointed or nominated by government into this NHRC. That was also brought. Thirdly, previously if we see, we have commissions like National Commission on Scheduled Tribes, right? NCSC, National Commission on Scheduled Castes, National Commission on Women, right? So these three bodies also have chairpersons, right? So those were ex officio members of NHRC, NCSC, NCST, NCW. These three bodies chairpersons were also ex officio members for NHRC. But now, after the amendment, some more bodies chairmen are also added. NCBC, National Commission for Backward Classes, right? NCBC and NCPCR, National Commission for Protection of Children's Rights. right? And also Chief Commissioner for PWD, person with disabilities. These three bodies chairmen are also made the ex officio members of this NHRC, right? So apart from NCSC, NCST and NCW, NCBC, NCPCR and Chief Commissioner of PWD, these were also made ex officio members. Just find out details about all these bodies, right? These are also important for us, not only with respect to human rights, but also as a part of constitutional and statutory bodies. NCSC, NCST, are they statutory or constitutional? NCW, is it statutory or constitutional? It is statutory. NCST and NCSC are constitutional. NCBC, last year only it was made constitutional. NCPCR, it is a statutory body. Under which act? Under NCPCR Act, right? So find out about that. So this is one information. And also at the state level also we have Human Rights Commission, that is SHRC, State Human Rights Commission. So one thing we have to observe here is both for NHRC and SHRC only single act is there, single governing act is there, and that is Protection of Human Rights Act. There is no separate act for State Human Rights Commission. State Human Rights Commission also gets its authority from Protection of Human Rights Act only. So similarly, at the State Human Rights Commission level also, chairperson can be either Chief Justice of the High Court or Judge of the High Court. So this change was brought at the state level also. Right? This is one information. And other important amendment is term of these NHRC members. Term, what is the term? Previously it was 5 years. Now it was reduced to 3 years. Now it is reduced to 3 years. From 5 years to 3 years. So as of now, the tenure of this NHRC members is 3 years or 70 years of age. If that particular member finishes his 3 years, or if he has attained 70 years of age, then he has to move aside from the membership. So this is the norm now. And previously there used to be 5 years cooling off period. What is this cooling off period? That means after taking up this NHRC post, they have to wait for 5 years to go to any other public employment. But now that cooling period was removed, right? They are eligible for reappointment and they are eligible for other government employments also without any cooling period. Previously 5 years cooling period used to be there, but now there is no cooling period and they can be reappointed also. This was done. And new provision that was added is regarding human rights violations in union territories. Now who will take up the human rights issues in UTs? Through this act, the central government said that the human rights violations in the union territories will be taken up by the state governments only, the SHRC bodies only. However, for Delhi, the human rights violations will be taken up by the National Human Rights Commission, not State Human Rights Commission. This is one point which we have to know. For all the UTs, human rights violations, SHRC will take care, except for Delhi. For Delhi's human rights issues, NHRC will take care. This is a statutory body. This we have already discussed. So these are some points about NHRC, SHRC and some amendments that were made. Now another dimension is how are these members appointed? That is also one favorite area for UPSC. Questions were already asked. So which is the committee that appoints these members of NHRC? That committee's chairman is PM, Prime Minister. Prime Minister will be there. Leader of opposition of Lok Sabha will be there. Leader of opposition of Rajya Sabha will be there. Home Minister will be there. Speaker of Lok Sabha will be there. And Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha will be there. We all have studied that chairman is basically not elected from the Rajya Sabha, right? The Vice President becomes ex officio Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. That's why Deputy Chairman, who is a member of Rajya Sabha, is given that position, not the Chairman. So these are the people who form a committee and appoint these NHRC members. PM, Leader of Opposition of both the houses, Speaker of Lok Sabha, Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, and the Home Minister, right? Similarly, find the appointment committees for Lokpal and also for CIC, Central Information Commission. For these bodies also, we have appointment committees, just like for NHRC. Just find out who are involved. Basically, NHRC, it is a statutory body under Protection of Human Rights Act. Paris Principles related to human rights promotion and protection. Recent amendments, first thing, not only Chief Justice of India, but also Judge of the Supreme Court can also become the chairman. Extra one woman member to be mandatorily nominated. Not only NCSC, NCST, NCW, but also NCBC, NCPCR, and Chief Commissioner of PWD. They are also ex officio members. Similarly, at the state level, not only Chief Justice of High Court, but also a Judge of the High Court can become the chairman. Term of the office is reduced to 3 years or 70 years of age. Remember, it's 70 years, not 60 or 65. There is no cooling period now. Previously, there used to be cooling period. Now they are eligible for reappointment, which was not possible before. And union territories, human rights violations will be taken up by state human rights commissions, except for Delhi, whose cases will be taken up by NHRC and the appointments committee. So these are all points we have to be thorough about NHRC and SHRC, right? So now we'll go to the second topic. It is NATO ally-like status. NATO, NATO, NATO ally, ALLY, like status. NATO ally-like status. Now what is this? This is not NATO status, but it is somewhat similar to NATO status. What is NATO first of all? NATO is an intergovernmental military alliance, right? NATO means an intergovernmental military alliance. We all know North Atlantic Treaty. What is this North Atlantic Treaty? This might have been covered for you in international relations as a part of Cold War, right? During the Cold War, the US and other Western countries together made this NATO alliance. So this is about Western countries against the Russia, against the USSR and other countries where communism is spreading. Against that, the Western countries have made this NATO, right? This is some small history about NATO, right? This is North Atlantic Treaty, intergovernmental military alliance. That means some countries have come together to form a military alliance. What are those countries? There are 29 countries in total. They are from North American countries and European countries. North American countries and European countries. These countries, 29 countries, came together to form this military alliance. For what? During the time of Cold War, right? Their strategy is collective defense system. Their strategy is collective defense system. That means attack, military attack on one country will be considered as attack on all the countries. That is their policy, right? So all these 29 countries together will attack any country if there is attack on any one of the 29 countries. Collective defense system, right? Now a NATO ally-like status was given to India by the United States, right? NATO ally-like status was given to India by the United States last year, right? This is not NATO status to India. This is NATO ally-like status, right? This is not NATO status, NATO ally-like status. Now, why was it given? This NATO ally-like status is given by the Western countries or United States to other countries with whom United States has strategic partnership. One common thing which we all know is growing inclination of India with United States, right? Not only economically, but culturally, militarily, in all dimensions, the closeness between India and US is increasing, right? In this context, US has given this NATO ally-like status to India. So this ally-like status is given for non-members of NATO. Non-members of NATO, but still they have a close strategic relations with Western countries, right? And India is not the first country to get this status. Usually options will be like this only, right? India is not the first country to get this status. India, even before India got, many other countries like Pakistan, it was given ally-like status in 2001 itself, right? Japan, South Korea, these countries already have an ally like NATO ally like status with United States, right? So India is not the first country. Now in this context, US-India relations are very important. Recently, US IBC meeting also took place, US-India Business Council meeting, right? Just go through it and note down any important points are there. And three important agreements between US and India, right? LEMOA, COMCASA and BECA. There are three agreements, right? One is LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. This was signed between US and India. The second one is COMCASA, Communications Compatibility and Securities Agreement. This was also signed between US and India recently, means in the last year. One agreement is still pending, that is BECA, BECA, Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. Just find out what these three agreements are. And 2+2 meeting, that is also important. 2+2 ministerial level meeting between India and US. That was also started 2 years back, right? Just see which ministers are involved. It's the defense and the external affairs ministers that are involved in this 2+2, right? So which was the first country with which we started 2+2? Just find out that also, right? So in this way, in different dimensions, you have to analyze US-India relations. This is one of that NATO ally-like status, right? And also we have recently bought Chinook and Apache copters from US. Chinook and Apache from US. These are copters. So these equipments and defense equipments are also important, guys, right? Because it can be a match the following question where they give the names of equipments on one side and countries from where we imported them, right? So Chinook, Apache from this, S-400 from Russia, right? And Spike missiles from Israel. In this way, from number of countries, we import defense equipments, right? There are other aircrafts called US aircrafts, but that's not from US, that's from Japan, right? The name of the aircraft is US, but it's not from US, but it's from Japan. So in this way, many defense equipments are there. Just find out what important defense equipments India imports from US. That is important. Other dimension is military exercises with India. What are the Navy exercises which India and US do? What are the Air Force exercises? What is the name of that exercise? What is the name of Army exercise? US and India are planning a tri-service exercise, right? 3-in-1 service. Army, Navy and Air Force together service. We have such kind of military exercise with Russia, which is called Indra. Right? With Russia, we have one such thing called Indra. Similarly, US is also planning, just find out what's that name. Right? In this way, all this we have to be thorough, guys, with respect to US-India relations. So one such thing is NATO ally-like status, right? This is not NATO status to India. India is not a member of NATO, right? India is given only NATO ally-like status, right? So these points we have to be clear. The third topic we are going to take up for today is NBFCs. NBFCs, right? These NBFCs are also in the news for various reasons. Take this topic today. So first of all, these are registered under Companies Act, right? These are registered under Companies Act. These are not registered under Banking Act. That's the first area where we have to be careful. Now, what are the activities that are taken by NBFCs? What do these NBFCs actually do? If we have already banks in the place, then why do we need NBFCs again? So what are the differences between banks and NBFCs? These we have to know, guys. So major activities taken by NBFCs are two things. First is giving loans, right? That is one activity. Lending activity is something which is done by all NBFCs. Second thing is shares, stocks, bonds, debentures, securities. In all these markets also NBFC will be active, right? Purchasing shares, selling the shares, purchasing bonds, selling bonds, all these things will be done by NBFCs. So these are the two important activities that are done by NBFCs, right? Giving loans and also shares, stocks, debentures, bonds, etc. These are the activities which NBFCs do, right? What are the activities which NBFCs don't do? That also we should know. NBFCs directly don't engage in any agricultural activities, right? NBFCs directly don't engage in industrial activities, right? If there is any industry that is doing good, NBFC will go buy the shares of that industry, right? Or NBFCs will invest in their shares, or NBFCs will offer loans to that industry. That's it, right? They don't directly engage in industrial activities, right? They don't directly engage in industrial activities. They don't directly engage in agricultural activities, right? They don't engage in purchase and sale of goods and land. Those things are also not done by NBFCs, right? Investing in land or real estate, right? Or purchasing of agricultural commodities and selling the agricultural commodities. All these things are not done by NBFCs. NBFCs do only two things: giving loans, getting returns, and investing in shares, stock, debentures, etc. Only this is done by NBFCs. Now we have different types of NBFCs. Housing finance company is one thing, merchant banking company is one thing, stock broking company, chit fund company, nidhi company, all these are NBFCs only. Last year, chit funds regulation bill was brought by central government. Just find out what that chit fund regulation bill is, because these are called Ponzi schemes. Chit fund schemes are called Ponzi schemes. I suppose this was covered for you in economy. If not, yeah, these are Ponzi schemes, chit fund schemes, right? Just Google them and get to know. So all these are different types of NBFCs, guys. I just told this so that you have clarity and you can eliminate questions. What activities NBFCs do and what activities NBFCs don't do, right? Now, among these NBFCs, we have a category called systemically important NBFCs. Systemically important NBFCs. Why are these important for us? You all might have studied about IL and FS crisis, right? IL and FS crisis in economy. Last year, IL and FS crisis happened. This is one of the systemically important NBFC. Just because one NBFC got into loss, that created a huge impact on the economy of India, right? And that was one of the reason for overall NBFC crisis, right? So such companies, such NBFCs whose failure will have a large impact on economy, those kind of NBFCs are called systemically important NBFCs, right? All those NBFCs which have a huge impact on economy of India, positively or negatively, they are called systemically important NBFCs, right? If they fail, there is a chance that economy will fail, right? Such kind of NBFCs are called systemically important NBFCs. And other criteria for this systemically important NBFC is asset size should be 500 crore or more. Asset size should be 500 crore or more, right? These are the two criteria for systemically important NBFC. This definition we have to know because IL and FS crisis was in the news, right? That's why. Similarly, this year we had Yes Bank crisis, right? Yes Bank crisis happened this year in the month of March. Now, though it was a private sector bank, government has taken an initiative in that Yes Bank and tried to solve the problem because these are systemically important institutions. If Yes Bank fails, there are a number of banks that will fail. There are a number of companies that will be affected, right? There are a number of customers that will be affected. Consumption demand will be affected. Investments will be affected. In this way, lot of repercussions will be there. So such kind of institutions are called systemically important institutions, right? So we discussed what is systemically important NBFCs, and IL and FS crisis also. Just go through it. Now, what are the differences between NBFC and banks? Both take loans, both give loans, both get returns. Then what is the difference? First thing is, NBFCs don't accept demand deposits. Right? What is demand deposits? The normal deposits which we make in our bank accounts, right? Demand deposit means that kind of deposit which we can demand at any point of time, right? All the normal accounts which we have in different banks, they are demand deposits, right? If we go and swipe a debit card, we can draw the money. So such kind of demand deposits are not accepted by NBFC, whereas banks accept such demand deposits. That is the first difference. Second difference, second point is, under this only, NBFCs don't accept demand deposits, but some of the NBFCs accept time deposits. I have discussed what are time deposits also in the previous classes, right? Time deposits means fixed deposits, recurring deposits, all these. For a fixed amount of time, we keep this money with the bank for returns. Demand deposit means at any time we can draw the money, right? So NBFCs don't take demand deposits, but some of the NBFCs take time deposits. This is the first difference. Second difference is NBFCs are not part of payment and settlement system. What is this payment and settlement system? All the payment mechanisms. Just imagine we can go to a public sector bank or a private sector bank and draw a check, right? We can issue a check to a third person to draw money from our account, right? But this kind of mechanism doesn't exist for NBFCs. That is the difference, right? So you cannot, or NBFC cannot issue checks drawn on itself. So payment and settlement system is not applicable for NBFCs, whereas for banks fall under the payment and settlement system, and RBI supervises this payment and settlement system. There is an act also, Payment and Settlements Act 2007. Just go through that act, right? The third thing is deposit insurance. If the bank fails, is there any insurance for the depositors, right? If a bank fails, then definitely there is an insurance. This insurance is important because in the recent budget, this deposit insurance was increased from 1 lakh to 5 lakhs. Right? It was increased from 1 lakh to 5 lakh. What is this deposit insurance? We have seen Punjab and Maharashtra cooperative bank crisis last year, right? In that time only this deposit insurance topic came up. Deposit insurance means, just imagine a bank has failed. What about all those people who deposited their hard-earned money in this bank, right? So what the government said is, how much ever money you might have deposited, the bank has failed now. So some minimum amount I will guarantee you in return if the bank fails. That is deposit insurance, right? That was previously 1 lakh. That was previously 1 lakh, but in the recent budget, it was increased to 5 lakhs. It was increased to 5 lakhs, right? That means deposit insurance is 5 lakhs. Now, if any bank fails, 5 lakhs will be given back to the depositors. However, NBFCs don't have this deposit insurance, right? NBFCs don't have such deposit insurance. So it's a kind of risky investment only in NBFCs, right? So that is the third thing which we have to know. NBFCs don't have this deposit insurance. There is a body called DICGC, Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Just find out what this body is. This is completely under the control of RBI. This is the body that fixes this deposit insurance, right? So this is the third point. And the next point is CRR and SLR. You might have studied this in economy. CRR means cash reserve ratio. SLR means statutory liquidity ratio, right? Both these, the banks are mandatorily, banks have to mandatorily maintain this, CRR and SLR. However, NBFCs need not maintain CRR. Only time deposits taking NBFCs have to maintain SLR, statutory liquidity ratio. So this is another point. CRR, SLR, banks have to maintain compulsorily. NBFCs need not maintain CRR and SLR. Only time deposit taking NBFCs have to maintain SLR, right? What is this cash reserve ratio and SLR? Just find it out. And the last thing is registration. NBFCs are registered under Companies Act. Banks are registered under Banking Regulation Act 1946. So this is another difference. So these are some differences, guys. NBFCs cannot take demand deposits, but they can take time deposits. Banks can take both demand deposits and the time deposits. NBFC is not a part of payment and settlement system. Checks cannot be drawn. Deposit insurance is also not there for our deposits with NBFCs. CRR, SLR, NBFCs need not maintain. Only time deposit taking NBFCs have to maintain. NBFCs, Companies Act. Banks, Banking Regulation Act. Systemically important NBFCs also we have discussed. What does NBFC do and what activities NBFC doesn't do also we have discussed. Stand Up India scheme, right? What is this Stand Up India scheme? We know about Startup India scheme, right? Similarly, Stand Up India scheme. However, a small difference is Stand Up India scheme is exclusively for SC, ST and women. Stand Up India scheme is exclusively for SC, ST and women. For promoting entrepreneurship in SC, ST and women, this Stand Up India scheme was brought. This is being run by Ministry of Finance. This is the second point, right? This is similar to Startup India. Now what happens in this is bank loans will be given to SC, ST and women, right? Bank loans will be given ranging from 10 lakhs to 1 crore. Between 10 lakhs to 1 crore, that much amount of bank loans will be given to SC, ST and women, right? So, however, these loans are given only for greenfield projects. What is greenfield projects? Those projects which are starting from the scratch, right? They are freshly being started. They are not upgrading some kind of company or some kind of industry, right? Greenfield projects means those projects that are being started from the scratch, from the bottom, freshly. Those projects are called greenfield projects. So this is about Stand Up India. Similar to Startup India, Ministry of Finance for promoting entrepreneurship in SC, ST and women. Bank loans between 10 lakh to 1 crore are given, and these are for greenfield projects, right? So this is about governance topics. So an important topic for environment today we are taking up, that is Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Jal Shakti Abhiyan, right? All the points related to Jal Shakti Abhiyan and also related to water conservation we'll take up today, which are very important for prelims. Firstly, who implements this Jal Shakti Abhiyan? It is the Ministry of Jal Shakti, right? Ministry of Jal Shakti implements this Jal Shakti Abhiyan, right? That is the first point we have to know. Second thing, what is it for? This Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Abhiyan means campaign. So this is basically a campaign to promote water conservation and water security in the country, right? To promote water conservation and also water security in our country. For these two things, this campaign was brought, right? And this campaign gives a special focus to water stressed districts in the country. This campaign gives a special focus to water stressed districts in our country. And last year, if we see, in the year 2019, this Jal Shakti Abhiyan has successfully taken up water conservation in 256 water stressed districts of our country, right? Last year, 256 water stressed districts of our country, this Jal Shakti Abhiyan was successful, right? Almost all the states are implementing this, right? All the states. What are the 5 major objectives of this Jal Shakti Abhiyan? The 5 themes of this Abhiyan, right? This campaign has 5 targets. First is water conservation and rainwater harvesting. This is one dimension, right? Water conservation and rainwater harvesting. This Abhiyan tries to promote water conservation and rainwater harvesting as much as possible. Second is renovation of traditional water bodies, right? In the villages, we have traditional ways of storing water and rainwater harvesting. Such kind of traditional models, the government is identifying and promoting them, right? Because they are easy ways of protecting or conserving the water, right? That is the second dimension. Third dimension is reusing of water and recharging of water. This is also there under Jal Shakti Abhiyan, right? Reuse of water and recharge of water. This is also there. And watershed development is also an important component in this Jal Shakti Abhiyan, right? Watershed component. What is this watershed component? Watershed management is, I assume it was covered in geography. Watershed is basically a region, some region around these rivers and its tributaries, right? So that watershed region has to be maintained well, because these are the regions that are very much used for agriculture and which are mostly exploited, right? So watershed development is also a component under this Jal Shakti Abhiyan. And intensive afforestation is also there. Why intensive afforestation? Because by afforestation we can improve the water holding capacity of the soil. Trees help in holding the water, right? So that's why intensive afforestation is also made a part of this Jal Shakti Abhiyan. These are the 5 themes. Another major component or approach of this scheme is community participation, right? This is an Abhiyan and its overall objective is to make water conservation a Jan Andolan, to make water conservation a Jan Andolan, a people's movement. That is the objective of this Jal Shakti Abhiyan, right? To promote citizen participation or community participation and making water conservation a Jan Andolan. And this Jal Shakti Abhiyan every year is done in 2 phases. It is done in 2 phases because if we observe the monsoon of our country, most of the states benefit from the southwest monsoons, right? Most of the states benefit from southwest monsoons. But there are some states which benefit from retreating monsoons. Like Tamil Nadu and parts of Andhra Pradesh, they enjoy rainfall during the time of winter, right? During the time of starting of winter, right? This was covered in geography, I guess, monsoon patterns, right? So that's why this scheme is also implemented in 2 phases, during southwest monsoon and also during retreating monsoon, right? Because these are the times when rainfall will be abundant and these are the times where we can conserve more water. So in 2 phases this is there, and also convergence with Manrega scheme is also there as a component of this Jal Shakti Abhiyan. What does Manrega do? It gives work to people, right? Now they are trying to converge Manrega and Jal Shakti. That means for Jal Shakti to conserve water, if any small water structures are required, that work will be taken up under Manrega, right? In this way, convergence is there between Manrega and Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So these are all points about Jal Shakti Abhiyan. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan launched by Ministry of Jal Shakti. Its campaign for water conservation and water security, right? 256 water stressed districts in our country already covered, and 5 major objectives: water conservation, rainwater harvesting, renovation of traditional water bodies, reuse of water and recharging of water, watershed development and intensive afforestation. Community participation and making water conservation a Jan Andolan is also an objective under this Jal Shakti Abhiyan. This is implemented in 2 ways, 2 phases, during southwest and retreating, and also this has convergence with Manrega also, right? In this way, unemployment problem is solved by Manrega. At the same time, water conservation is also being promoted. Now we'll take up the important traditional water harvesting and water storing methods in India, right? These names are important for us with respect to prelims. In different parts of our country, these traditional water harvesting methods exist and people call it with different names, and they are of different nature. Few people make rock cut tanks, right? They cut tanks in the rocks to store water. Few people make tanks out of wooden structures, right, to store the water. Few people use mud to store the water. They make small craters so that the water goes and stores in the groundwater. In this way, different approaches are there to store the rainwater and groundwater, right? Local ways, and local people call it with their local names. Those local names are important for us, right? There are 20 important traditional water harvesting methods in India, right? Just go through them as many times as possible. You'll get familiar with those. I'll just name them and tell in which state are they famous. So details, if you want about everything, just go to net and search them, guys. So first we'll start with Rajasthan, because Rajasthan model is most appreciated model for water conservation. Rajasthan model, we can use, I have used this in essays and GS answers also a lot. Rajasthan model is the most appreciated model for water conservation, right? We have many local traditional water harvesting methods in Rajasthan. So to start with, first is Jhalara, 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 Jhalara. So this Jhalara is in Rajasthan, right? So Jhalara is one technique, local technique of water storage in Rajasthan, right? So this is first thing. Second thing is, second method is Talab, Talab, Talab. So this Talab is also in Rajasthan. Jhalara is in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Talab is in Udaipur, Rajasthan. Places you need not remember, just remember where is it, in which state is it famous, right? So Talab is in Rajasthan. Bawaris, Baori, Bawaris. Bawaris are also in Rajasthan, right? In the city outskirts of Rajasthan, we can see these Bawaris. They are nothing but collection points of water. Tankas. Tankas also is a way of storing water in Rajasthan, in the Thar Desert region, right? In the Thar Desert region, we have Tankas, Taanka. They call it Tankas, right? That is also there. So these are in Rajasthan. Jhalara, Talab, Bawari, Tanka. These four are in Rajasthan. Ahar Pines, Aharpynec, Ahar Pines. Ahar Pines. This is there in Bihar. This is a water harvesting or water storage traditional technique in Bihar. Ahar Pines, right? And the next thing is Johads, Johads, Johads. Johads is in Haryana, right? Haryana also passed a bill promoting these Johads last year, right? So Johads is in Haryana. Pannam Keni, Pannam Keni, Pannam Keni. This is in Kerala, in the Wayanad region, right? Pannam Keni. This is in Kerala, Wayanad region. Khadins, Khadins, Khadins. Khadins are in Rajasthan, right? Khadins are in Rajasthan. Khadins, Khadins. Kundis, Kundi. And in some places they call it Kund, Kund. Kundis or Kund. These are found in Rajasthan as well as in Gujarat. Rajasthan as well as in Gujarat. Kundis, Kunds. Right? Zings in Ladakh. Zing, Z-I-N-G, Zing. Zing is a local water harvesting technique in Ladakh. Right? This also we have to know. And Kuls, Kuhls, Kuls in Himachal Pradesh. Kuhls, Kuls in Himachal Pradesh. Zabo, Z-A-B-O, Zabo is in Nagaland. Right? This needs a bit of patience, guys. So just patiently write down all the things and slowly, how many possible, those many you try to go through them. Right? If you search every technique in net and get to know about it, then it's one way how you can get familiarized with this all. Right? You need not remember them. You can automatically recollect them if you try to Google about these things in your free time. Right? So Zabo is in Nagaland. And bamboo drip irrigation. Bamboo drip irrigation. This is in Meghalaya. This is in Meghalaya. And Jack Wells, Jackwells, Jack Wells. Jack Wells is in Nicobar Islands. Jack Wells is in Nicobar Islands. And Ramtek model, Ramtek, R-A-M-T-E-K, Ramtek model. This is in Maharashtra. Ramtek model is in Maharashtra. And PAT system, P-A-T, PAT system is in Madhya Pradesh. And AIRI, E-R-I, AIRI in Tamil Nadu. AIRI in Tamil Nadu. And Bhandara Ford, Bhandara, B-A-N-D-A-R-A, Bhandara Ford, P-H-O-D, Bhandara Ford. This is in Maharashtra. This is in Maharashtra. And Nadi, N-A-D-I, Nadi. This is there in Rajasthan, right? So almost among the 20, around 8 to 10 are from Rajasthan only, right? That's why Rajasthan model is very famous for water conservation, guys. So Nadi is in Rajasthan. And the last one is Bawali. Bawali, B-A-O-L-I, Bawali. This is also in Rajasthan, right? Bawari and Bawali, both are in Rajasthan only. So these 20 are different, important, traditional, local water harvesting and water storage techniques, guys, right? So these all we have to be important. Remember, so Jalara in Rajasthan, Talab in Rajasthan, Bawari in Rajasthan, Tanka, Thar Desert, Rajasthan, Ahar Pines, Bihar, Johards, Haryana, Pannam Keni, Kerala, Khadins, Rajasthan, Kundi or Kunds, Rajasthan, Zing, Ladakh, Zabo, Nagaland, Kuls, Himachal Pradesh, Bamboo Drip Irrigation, Meghalaya, Jackwells, Nicobar Islands, Ramtek model, Maharashtra, PAT system, Madhya Pradesh, AIRI, Tamil Nadu, Bhandara Ford, Maharashtra, Nadi, Rajasthan, and Bawali, Rajasthan. Right? These are the 20 things which you have to remember because they are important. And the last topic for today is special report on climate change and land. No, right? This report was published by IPCC. Special report on climate change and land. When I was taking the class on Paris Agreement, I've spoke about 3 reports that were discussed in COP25 summit. These 3 reports of IPCC and 1 report of UNEP, right? So these 3 reports of IPCC, this is one of that special report on climate change and land. This report says how climate change affects land and how land affects climate change. Just go through the details of this report, guys. So for prelims, you have to at least know this is published by IPCC and this was discussed in COP25, right? Apart from this, 2 other reports were also released by IPCC. One is climate change and land. The other one is climate change and polar Arctic regions, polar and ocean, right? Effect of climate change on polar and ocean regions. And the other one is special report on global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. That is the other report. In that report, IPCC speaks about tipping effect. Just get to know what is the tipping effect, right? So these are today's topics. And if you see today's newspaper also, there were some important topics for prelims. First is Permanent Commission for Women. In today's headlines of Hindu paper, we have an article saying Permanent Commission for Women. So there was a Supreme Court judgment also a few months back about this Permanent Commission for Women, entry of women into Permanent Commission in Army. So get to know all the details. Only in Army, the recent judgment of Supreme Court is about Permanent Commission for Women in Army. Navy has Permanent Commission for Women long back itself. Army also has long back itself. And just see in which of the wings, in Army, Navy and Air Force, what is the representation of women? It is low in Army. It is around 10 to 11% in Air Force, right? How much is it in Navy? Some 7 to 8%. I'm not sure, but just see how much women are represented. How much percentage is women, right? In Army, it is less. At least that trend we have to know compared to Navy and Air Force. And this permanent commission is for command positions, right? Not combat positions. What is this command position? What is this combat position? What is short service commission? What is permanent commission, right? Get to know all these details and see that Supreme Court judgment, guys, right? If you go through that Supreme Court judgment, then it will be clear for you. The second one is Rajasthan issue, the verdict of Supreme Court, right? Supreme Court gave a new turn to anti-defection law, right? Through its judgment yesterday. It said, why should dissent of a particular MLA should be considered as defection, right? When we are taking up anti-defection, I have spoken about this. So anti-defection means speaking something against your party, right? So yesterday what Supreme Court said is there should be positive criticism that should be allowed, right? As an MLA, he has his own identity apart from party's identity. So if he wants to speak something genuine which is good for the people, because he is a representative of the people, he has the right to speak something which is against the party. So on those kind of lines, the Supreme Court has given the judgment, right? So just go through that judgment. And in business space, there was mentioning of V-shaped economic recovery model for India. Just see what is this V-shaped economic recovery, right? And also, there was a committee that was appointed on non-personal data governance. What was the committee that was appointed for personal data protection? It is Sri Krishna Committee. For personal data protection, it is Sri Krishna Committee. For non-personal data governance, it was Gopal Krishna Committee. S. Gopal Krishna Committee, right? So because personal data is in very much in news, we might focus on that, but non-personal data also, for this also a committee was set up, and it's under the chairmanship of Gopal Krishna. That article is there in today's paper. Just go through it, right? And debt monetization. Debt monetization, DEBT, debt monetization. We know what is fiscal deficit. Just find out what is fiscal deficit, what is primary deficit, what is revenue deficit, what is budget deficit, right? What is monetization of deficit? Monetization of deficit means converting the debt of government into credit by taking the help of RBI. So find out more about what is this debt monetization, right? And also there was an open credit enablement network. That means a portal is being generated to democratize the credit access. Means access to credit is one of the major problem for MSMEs, right? Access to credit, access to loans is one of the major problem for MSMEs. To solve that, a particular organization called iSpirit, ISPRT, is coming up with a portal called Open Credit Enablement Network, OCEN. This was there in today's paper, just go through it. And Mars missions. Mars missions, I personally feel are important for this year prelims because UAE has sent Hope mission to Mars with the help of Japan, and now China is sending its first mission to Mars, right? Its name is Tianwen-1, Tianwen, T-I-A-N-W-N-1, Tianwen-1, right? To successfully land on Mars, China is sending this mission, right? NASA is also on its plans to send another mission called Perseverance mission. And also as a part of this Perseverance, Ingenuity, a particular kind of thing called Ingenuity is there. Just find out what is that Ingenuity, right? It's like a guiding thing for the rover, right? So what is Ingenuity? What is this Perseverance mission by NASA? And what is this Tianwen-1? This is landing mission on Mars, right? What is the mission of MOM of India? Right, that is only orbiting mission on Mars. We didn't land on Mars, that is orbiting mission on Mars, right? Orbiting is different from landing. These are the places where we have to be careful because orbiting missions are different from landing missions. Yesterday we have discussed Chandrayaan also, right? Orbiter will be there, lander will be there, rover will be there, right? Our mission was orbiting mission of Mars. Whereas US has landed on the Mars. Is the only country to land on Mars 7 times successfully. Right? So now China is also trying it with the Tianwen-1 mission. Find about this Tianwen Hope, right, and Perseverance and our mom mission. And Brexit deal was also in news today. The EU countries and the Britain and the UK could not come for a deal after Brexit. So they are mostly seeing for a non-Brexit deal exit. So just see what is this Brexit deal. There are some important agreements. When did the Brexit form? How many countries are there now after UK left? Right? What is this 11-month transition period? What is a customs union? Just get to know all these things. And again, Kulbhushan Jadhav was also in news today. Vienna Convention. What is this Vienna Convention? Just find out what is this consular access. What was the recent ICJ, International Court of Justice judgment on this Kulbhushan Jadhav?